into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you. In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Good evening there, and welcome to the latest Elite FPL preview show with myself and Jason. And of course, for all you guys on YouTube, you know who we are, but for all those people that are watching us live on Twitch for the first time, or on Twitch anyway,
hello.
Good evening to you. Hello there.
How's it
Good
going,
evening,
guys?
Jason. Take it away. Do your usual stuff with who's in chat, who's live, who's joining us, etc., etc.
Well, hopefully the audio levels are right tonight, guys. Let us know. We've got James Bang in chat. We've got Ian Anderson, One Rovers Vlogs, Greasy Trumpet, Daniel Jarman, Bruce in chat. We've got Zayn and Hussein, Gabriel D. Rops in chat, Greasy Trumpet, I think I've already said. One Rovers Vlogs, Stas is in chat. Steiny Stein, Matt Brunton, and a lot of you guys. Richard S, Vince Chapman, the Don's in chat. Ibrahim Sidat is in chat. Sam21G, welcome back, Sam. Who we got? MacMat there. We got Brew in Twitch. Welcome, Brew. Colin the Moonwalker, South Stand, J Boy, Shane083. Morning, gents. Morning. For people around the world tuning in, we've got Yassine Klaus, we've got Ian Emily. Yeah. It's a lot of you guys here for the intro. It's a pleasure to have you here with us for the Game Week 11 predictions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I will let everybody know now that if you want to come live on air with myself and Jason, by all means, get into that waiting room. We're only going to be here till about 10 o'clock, just after 10 o'clock. But more importantly, if you want to join in representing the callers for our predictions, then get into that waiting room now on Discord, and we will select somebody at random and we will bring them live on there, like I said, to represent the callers. At the moment, the callers are doing they're doing okay in the predictor game, but we'll come on to that in a minute. It's actually Nim Freya that's winning a potential Elite FPL piece of merchandise because she's absolutely storming it. But no, we've got quite a bit to talk about this evening. It's the usual malarkey, really. We've been obviously predicting the games, going through what we think of each individual match. Obviously, I'll be revealing who the history is suggesting will be the best captaincy choice. I've got 2 pieces of exclusive news for people that are paid members. More importantly, the premium membership, you would have found out what those 2 pieces of exclusive news is already, but you'll find out later. And also, one of our regular contributors to the show, I hope he's going to be there live, which is FPL Penguin. He's got something exclusive to reveal as well to the audience. So hopefully FPL Penguin will be able to join us at some point this evening to discuss what he's planning on doing. But as ever, Jason, are you looking forward to this upcoming game week, or are you just like me thinking, God's sake, I don't know what to do?
No, I'm looking forward to this game week because things can only get better for me, and the players I've got on my team I'm sticking with that can only do better. Hey, Baven in Twitch, welcome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game week. I'm looking forward to seeing how the captaincy picks do, because I may have maybe captaining someone that isn't kind of the popular captain pick this week.
I'm sure that Show Me the Mane ears will prick up by that, because I know he's going to be probably bringing in some...
He don't care who I captain. He's a million miles away.
No, absolutely, yeah. So, as ever, we'll just kick off with our predictions and everything. And I believe there is somebody there right now. It's Peeps.
Oh.
Peeps. We just need you to unmute your microphone, my friend, and you can come live on air with myself and Jason, and you can start predicting the results for this particular game week. Do you want to drag him in, Jason?
I would, but I've got one slight issue.
Go for it.
I haven't loaded up Discord yet.
Brilliant. There's the tech issues, everybody. Everybody blames me for my tech problems, but, you know, more than one occasion, this has been an issue, Jason. What's going on? I'll bring him in.
I guess it's all those sweets I've had, because it's obviously Halloween. So, yeah, there you go. You can drag him in.
Peeps, are you there? Can you hear us? Come on, Peeps. Just need to unmute the microphone. If not, then you'll have to bring someone else on. We need people to come live on Discord, get into the waiting room. I find it really ironic that whenever we advertise for people to come live on air, Jason, no one seems to want to come on. And the second that we don't really want anybody coming on, we get about 500 million people waiting in the waiting room. So and he's left. Brilliant. So if anybody, there is a slot now available for anybody to come live on air with us to discuss the particular game week results, because that would be the interesting one. And more importantly, guess what, Jason? The history is doing very, very well in the leaderboard. It's 17th. It moved up to 17th in the EliteFPL.com's predictor game. I'm up to 29th or 39th, I think I am. In our own particular game, the one that I specifically do, I'm leading 5 game weeks to your 1, the callers 2, and the history 2. You may be wondering, well, how are you doing so well in that rather than the leaderboard in the predictor game? Because I do it slightly differently. I do it so it's outcome, game bang on the money, and also nearest to the pin as well. So, for example, if the game ended 1-0, but you predicted 2-0, I would give you a point for that. Right then, let's bring on Staz. Staz, good evening. Hey, there we are. All excited for game week 11?
I can't hear him. Can you hear me? Can you hear him?
Good.
Can you hear him?
I can hear him loud and clear. Just need to mute your stream, Staz, and then we can have a coherent conversation.
I can't hear him at all. I can't hear him at all. Let me just log out and come back in. Here we go. Hello, Staz.
Keeps going. Staz, are you there?
I can't hear him. This is the first time I'm having tech issues. Right, guys, go make yourself a cup of tea. I'll be right back.
I'll do the usual, Jason. I'll relay the conversation with Staz to you, so to speak. But Staz keeps dropping in and out of the Discord. Staz, you just need to unmute. Yep, there we are, done and dusted. Staz, are you looking forward to Gameweek 11? We can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear, but
can you hear me?
No one else can.
Oh, I know why. Hang on. I know why. Sorry, guys. I know why. Just bear with me one moment. I need to switch my speakers over. Sorry, this is because I had that visualizer thing. I had that. Do you know the visualizer thing? Can you mute your mic a second, Staz? Or can you turn your...
Hello?
Yeah, Staz, can you turn your speakers down, mate? Because it's echoing really bad.
Okay, just wait a second.
This is the benefits of doing it live, ladies and gentlemen. Staz, you need
How
to turn
about
your
now?
speakers down, mate. Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3. Right, that's it. That's a lot better, Staz. It's a lot better. Right, yeah. So I took the visualizer off the stream, and that's the reason I had an audio cable. For any of you techies out there, I had a virtual audio cable piping my sound from my Discord into another audio source. So that's the reason why I couldn't hear anyone on Discord. But anyway, it doesn't matter now. We're here. We're live. We can start again. Who cares about quality? Yes, absolutely. Jarizok. Who cares about quality? I do actually. South Stand, welcome. Right, so let's kickstart this game week. Welcome, Stas, to the game week preview. We're previewing game week 11. Thank you for joining us on air, Steve-O.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Steve-O has got his history book ready and waiting, and yeah, he's got his.
First of all, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate what you guys doing. Having a lot of fun hearing you and listening to you.
Well, thank you. Well, it's very, very kind of you. But I must say that tonight's been the most unsmooth start to the show I think we've ever done.
And that includes our first ever show back in last year. This time last year, and of course that's a nice little plug for tomorrow evening when we do our 1 year anniversary, everybody. So join myself and Jason this time, and Dan, of course, this time tomorrow evening when we're going to be celebrating all things Elite FPL, and we can get you talking about why you enjoy the show. And basically, it's a bit of a self-indulgent show, but I couldn't give a damn, to be honest with you. I nearly swore then, but you only get the swearing on the membership deals. Anyway, let's move on to the predictions. So the way this particular game works, from my point of view, is quite simply this. We go through the results, of course. If you get the result outcome correct, you get 1 point. If you get the result bang on the money, you get 2 points, 3 points. And if you get it near enough, you get 2 points. Of course, I tell you exactly what the history is thinking the score will be, along with a little statistic which kind of keeps cropping up during the particular respective matches. And quite scarily, they seem to be coming out trumps. Now, it's not an exact statistic in the sense of it will tell you exactly. An example would be, Man United in Man United's last 6 games with Bournemouth, there's been 2 red cards. It's not going to tell you exactly if there is going to be a red card, for example, in this particular game. We ain't going to tell you that it's going to be a Bournemouth player or a Man United player, but there's a chance that there could be a red card, just like in the... I keep using this as an example, just like in Southampton versus Sheffield United or whatever the fixture was. The common theme was that there was like 4 red cards out of the last 6, and then there was a red card in the specific fixture for Billy Sharp, from what I remember. So yeah, it's a very, very strange thing regarding statistics, but it always comes up trumps. And of course, we go for the popular captain picks this particular game week and see what the history's suggesting. As ever, the history does seem to come out on top. This particular game week, I've picked Sterling, Aguero, Kevin De Bruyne and Jamie Vardy as the 4 more popular captaincy picks this week. Anyway, let's kick things off. Staz, we'll let you go first. It's Bournemouth versus Man United. What are you predicting for this game?
Well, I think that United will struggle a little bit, but I think they're gonna eventually score. I would say for this game 2 or 3-1 to United. I'm gonna go with 3-1 because I feel that Rashford and Martial looking pretty solid right now. I think that they're the most skilled players in this team. And with Daniel James with them up front, I think with the shaky Bournemouth defense, they should be able to get the job done.
Jason, obviously you're a United fan. Your thoughts on that prediction there?
Don't know whose phone that is, keeps going off, but it's very loud.
It's I'm gonna turn it off. Sorry.
No, it's fine. We got a good game here. I think it's going to be a good kickoff to the game week. I think there's going to be goals in this game. Will United keep a clean sheet away at Bournemouth? I don't think they will. Having owned Callum Wilson, after his great, consistent run, and then bringing him in my team, and then all of a sudden not really getting anything, I think that he's got a good chance of returning in this game. But I think United have got enough quality in the team to beat Bournemouth. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 to United. Yeah,
it's my most picked prediction this week. I've done a lot. In fact, I've done 1, 2, 3. I've done 5 2-1s this particular game week. Apparently, Staz's sound is a bit loud, Jason, if you want to turn him down. But anyway, I'm going with 2-1. I agree. I think that this is going to be actually quite a tight game. I did release a little statistic on our Twitter page from Football 365 that actually Bournemouth's defence has been really, really good. And as people have been mentioning in chat, Jason, it wouldn't surprise me if Ramsdale goes and gets a penalty save from Rashford or Martial. But yeah, I think that Man United will come out on top, just 2-1. But like I just mentioned, the history's going 2-1 as well to Man United. Like I said, there has been 2 red cards in this specific fixture. Man United, though, have scored twice or more on 4 out of the last 6 fixtures and have won 5 out of the last 6. So it looks like the omens are looking good for United here. Moving on to one of 6 3:00 kickoffs, which Jason will be covering on Saturday. And like I said, I've got some exclusive news regarding Saturday. But Jason will be covering on, what's it called again? Saturday FPL Live. Is that right, Jason? The new name for our show on Saturdays?
Yeah, absolutely.
Saturday FPL Live. So Saturday FPL Live, Jason will be covering the 6 games. And we kick off with Arsenal versus Wolves. Staz, your thoughts on this particular game?
I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan, and every time people asking me about Arsenal, I'm trying to be positive, but I'm having it really difficult to stay positive with that team because the football level is low. I would say probably if Arsenal gonna win, and I believe they are gonna win because they must win, I would say 2-0.
Wow, 2-0. Jason, do you agree with this?
Hang on one second. 2-0 to Arsenal. I don't think it's going to be that easy for Arsenal. I'm gonna go.
It's never easy. It's never easy.
I'm gonna go 1-0 Arsenal.
You're both thinking Arsenal are going to keep a clean sheet. Wow, I think this is going to be again another tight game here. We all know that. FPL lads here. Good evening. I was talking about you the other day, FPL lad. Funnily enough, but anyway, slight sidetrack there. But Wolves, this is the kind of game that they like to play. But I do agree with Staz. I think that Arsenal they need to win this. They've had 2 terrible results as of late, and I think that they should just scrape this 2-1, and that's exactly what the history is going with. They're thinking 2-1 as well. 3 out of the last 6, Arsenal have won 3 out of the last 6 fixtures. Arsenal have actually won 2-0, but unfortunately, as of late, recent history, there's been 2-1-1 draws, both at the Emirates. Also, Wolves seem to like a red card in this as well. They've both had 2 red cards in this fixture, so there could be another one seeing red there. We move on to another one, Aston Villa versus Liverpool. I'll just quickly go through this and then we'll go to Staz. I think this is going to be a lot tighter than what people are thinking. I've heard Notorious Nerd, for example, mentioning Mane as a potential captaincy option here due to the fact that Aston Villa concede a lot of headed goals and Mane does like to get the old header in. I think that Liverpool are just going to edge this, and I'm going to go 2-1. Staz, what are you thinking on Aston Villa versus Liverpool? Staz, are you there?
Yeah. Is it my turn to speak? I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah. What do you think on Aston Villa versus Liverpool, the scoreline?
I would say that Liverpool need to look strong before the City game. I think they're gonna dominate this game. I think they are going to concede because their defense is not the sharpest, not the most sharp defense I personally saw. So I think it's going to end 4-1 to Liverpool.
Wow. What are your thoughts quickly then on people potentially could be captaining Salah or Mane? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Villa, I mean, even against Arsenal, which are a bad football team, it looks like without chemistry and without flow in the attack, they managed to score 3 goals against this team, being one man down. So I think Mane or Salah are great captaincy choices because Villa are going to concede goals and they're going to score goals. So, yeah.
Jason, are you confident on Liverpool to just sweep aside Aston Villa?
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna go with a 3-1 victory to Liverpool in this game. I'm worried that I don't own Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm worried that I don't.
I wouldn't.
Hey, well,
I would be.
I think this is a fixture that I think all those crosses he's going to pump in. I'm just hoping that Mane gets on the end of them, and scores. I mean, in terms of points, I think that people looking at Man City this week as being the go-to captaincy picks, but I think that there could be a great point haul from either a Salah or a Mane captaincy pick quite easily this game week. 3-1.
Well, history's going with the same amount of goals that you're predicting. It's saying 3-2 to Liverpool. Aston Villa have scored 4 out of the last 6 versus Liverpool. On 3 occasions, they've scored 2 goals. Liverpool have only won 3 out of the last 6, but have scored 11 in total versus Aston Villa. So it could be a high-scoring game indeed. Moving on to the next game, which is Brighton versus Norwich. What are your thoughts on this game, Staz?
I like Brighton this season. I really like them. I think they're a quality team. They have a couple of nice players. I read this week that Connolly and Maupai have the same shots from the. Oh, I don't know what's the name of the area of the goalkeeper.
Penalty area.
But I think that it's going to end 3-1 to Brighton because I mean Norwich they got to score at some point and they need to start scoring more consistently. So I believe Brighton will win, but they're going to concede.
Jace?
Yeah, I'm looking at this game and I think that I can see Brighton winning it. I really do. I think that it's going to be 1 or 2 goals for Brighton. I think it's going to be close. I think Norwich will probably end up replying. I'm going to go with 2-1 to Brighton.
I think it's going to be a lot tighter than what people think. I think this is going to be I think it's just going to be a pretty poor game. I think Brighton will be knocking on the door and they'll eventually get through, and I think it'll end up 1-0. The history's going 1-1. There have been 2 1-1s in this specific fixture, and a total of 18 goals over the last 6 in 2 matches alone contained 11 goals. One which was a 5-0 win to Brighton and a 3-3 draw. Of the last 6 fixtures, there have been 3 clean sheets as well, so it looks like this could be quite a tight game. FPL Lad with an interesting stat there. Brighton have scored 3 goals in every game they've won this season. And while I've got this opportunity to mention this, FPL Penguin, we'd like you to get live on air to discuss your exclusive news regarding a particular captaincy choice that you've gone with. But talking of a particular captaincy choice, it's the big one. It's Man City versus Southampton. Staz, your thoughts on this game?
Personally, I gonna captain KDB this week because I learned this season that without KDB the machine isn't working. I think he's the most essential player in their side, and I think they're gonna win 5-0.
5-0. Jason, come on, is it going to be 7, 8, 9, 10?
Well, it's certainly. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near the Leicester result. But I do think that there's going to be a comfortable win for Man City. I think the majority of people would agree, nod their head to that. Sterling, De Bruyne, Aguero, great captaincy picks. I'm loving the fact that I own David Silva. I think David Silva has got a great chance of getting some points in this game. I'm going to go with a 4-0 win for Man City. Simon Batchelor is saying 10-0.
I'm not that confident. I say that I've gone 1 less goal than you. I've gone 3-0. I don't know. There's just something about Man City this season. I just think that I'm probably speaking absolute nonsense, but I don't think they're just going for the jugular as much. I know they battered Watford 8-0, and there's probably the odd team here or there. The team that they played last week in the Champions League was 5-1, but yeah, I think this is going to be a lot. Yeah, I think I'm going 3-0. The history's going 3-1 to Man City. Of course, it was 3-1 to Man City in the Carabao Cup the other day. And yeah, Southampton have scored actually 1 goal in 4 out of the last 6 fixtures, although Man City have scored 16 past Southampton over the last 6 fixtures. In fact, throwing into the Carabao Cup, that's 19 goals scored in the past 7 fixtures. But they've only kept 2 clean sheets in the last 7, if we're going to be talking about that. The history, though, here we go. This is what everybody's tuning in for. The history, so Sterling, 4 starts, 1 sub-appearance, 3 goals, 2 assists. Aguero, 5 starts, 3 goals, 2 assists. This is the big one. Kevin De Bruyne, 4 starts, 1 goal and 4 assists. We had Davey FPL on, kindly joining us on along with Phil, Ray Joyce, Adam Fong, James Bang, and Aussie Boy, and the 5 of us, 6 of us were all chatting yesterday. And the Rooster, of course. And if anybody have a clue what I'm talking about, the stream that I did yesterday morning. But anyway, Davey FPL was reminded this was maybe the game where he shot up the rankings, where Sterling last season in a 6-1 win, exactly the same time this time last year, Man City beat Southampton 6-1, and Sterling got 2 goals and 2 assists. Aguero got 1 goal and 2 assists, and Davey FPL was mentioning the fact that this was probably the game where he remembers captaining Sterling, and it really took him up the ranks because everybody went with Aguero. So, yeah, the history is actually suggesting Kevin De Bruyne based on the percentages and average across 4 games. But reality is this. You could captain any 3 of them, and you look like you're going to be guaranteed some form of return. Here we are now, moving on to Sheffield United versus Burnley. Sheffield United, a team which just do not seem to like conceding goals. However, I do think that this game is going to be tight. I'll tell you what, a little tip for anybody. J. Rodriguez, 6 million. I would be looking at bringing him in, potentially, for anybody who's looking at a Burnley striker. Sean Dyche doesn't like playing around with the team, and J. Rodriguez, as of late, has been doing really, really well for us, albeit because of injuries, but he's taken his opportunity, and I think that it's certainly worth a punt if anybody's thinking of bringing in a Burnley striker. But it's Sheffield United versus Burnley, and I think this could be 2-1 either way, but I've officially gone with 1-1. Staz, what are you thinking of Sheffield United versus Burnley?
I like both teams. I think that probably Sheffield are the slightly better side right now at this game week, but I think it's going to be a draw. 1-1.
Jason?
I mean, a lot of people saying 0-0 in the chat. A lot of you guys. I don't think it's going to be that interesting at all. Jack Sixton 3 in Twitch is saying 1-0 to Burnley. I think Burnley are going to win this game. I think it's a good week to own Lundstrom. I really do. I think it's going to be 0-0. I'm in agreement with a lot of you guys in chat. 0-0. Boring 0-0.
The history's not suggesting boring at all. In fact, it's going with a 3-2 victory to Burnley. There has been... Now, this history dates back to 2008, by the way. There's been 22 goals scored in 6 of these fixtures. On 3 occasions, Burnley have actually scored 3+ goals. And we have actually won 4 out of the last 6. So the omens are looking pretty good for Burnley, I'd like to think. And as I always keep saying, Burnley don't usually lose to teams around us. So I think this is potentially a game where we actually might come out on top. But like I said, it's 1-1s that I'm going with. Anyhow, I think the next game really will be an absolute dire game. It's West Ham United versus Newcastle. And I'm just going to say it here now. I'm going to go 0-0. Staz?
I'm going to go with Newcastle this game because West Ham, for me, are like Everton. You can play them and they will be awesome, and you can play them and they will be awful. I think that Newcastle, defensively, they are more stable. I think they're going to win this game 1-0.
Wow, Jason?
I'm disagreeing completely, Stas. I'm going to go with a West Ham win on this one. I was going to go 1-0, but then I looked at a lot of the guys in chat and I've kind of drawn inspiration and I've upped it to 2-0. 2-0 West Ham. Yarmolenko getting a goal possibly in that game.
2-0. Moving on to the evening kickoff. Now, of course, we all witnessed live Burnley versus Watford. It ended 4-2. I've just seen someone in the chat saying that Burnley can't finish. Yeah, that's true. But we ended up on a 4-2 loss. Chelsea absolutely battered us, but whatever. But if we could actually put our shots away, then it may have been a bit more tighter, but we didn't, and whatever. But it's Watford versus Chelsea, and I think this is an ideal game for Chelsea to bounce back after losing last night. So yeah, I'm going to go with 3-1 to Chelsea, Staz.
I read this week that Kabasele is back for Watford, and it's slightly stabilizing their defense. I don't think it's gonna have a real impact on the game, but I think it's gonna help them. I think Chelsea would struggle a little bit, but I think they're going to win 2-0 at the end.
Ooh, a clean sheet for Chelsea. Do you think Chelsea are going to get a clean sheet, Jason?
No, I don't think they are. I think it's going to be a Chelsea win, and I'm going to go with a 3-1 win to Chelsea.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, sure.
When I look at Watford's side, I don't understand who is going to give the goal, because
yeah, I look at Chelsea defence and I think there's a mistake in there, and I think that Watford will just end up getting a fluky goal from a corner or a cross or something like that.
I mean, that's realistic, probably.
Yeah, that's my feeling. Yeah, I mean, people are saying Ian Anderson said 3-2. Scott Speed says 4-2. Always get 3 or 4 goals away for Chelsea. James B. I mean, James Bang. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think people. I mean, I'm not mentioning any names. Alan Hudson-Odoi or other Chelsea players. You know, may rue this game. I think that there's goals for Chelsea in this game against Watford, and yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Maybe I can get that prediction right out of the many that I don't get right.
I mean, going on the Newcastle game, I didn't actually reveal the history there. It's a 2-1 victory to West Ham, although Newcastle have actually won 4 out of the last 6. There have been 4 clean sheets out of the last 6 for either team. There have been 17 goals scored, 9 for Newcastle and 8 for West Ham, so it looks like it could be quite a tight game here. Moving on to this specific game, the history's going 4-1 to Watford. There has been 4 goals scored by each team 3 times out of the last 6. So Chelsea, I think, got 4 goals in 2 games, and Watford scored 4 goals in 1 game. There have been 2... Yeah, and Chelsea have won 5 out of the last 6, but there have been a couple of there's been a lot of red cards in this statistics this particular game. There's been also 2 red cards in this particular fixture as well. And talking of red cards, there could be one in this particular next fixture where there have been 2 red cards shown in this one. It's Crystal Palace versus Leicester. Staz, what are you thinking on this particular game?
I brought Vardy this week, but I did it more because of as an investment, because I believe that his price until the game against Norwich at home at the end of their convenient schedule, I think his price is going to rise dramatically. And I think that in this specific game, Palace would make it hard on Leicester, but in terms of quality, Leicester have much more quality than Crystal Palace in their team, and with all the respect to Arsenal, they're not a good example of how defense should work and should stand on the field.
Okay.
So what do you think on the scoreline then?
Leicester win.
Leicester
and
win.
The scoreline?
2-1.
2-1, and that's exactly what I've gone with. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think Leicester will just, and I mean just, get through this, and I'm going 2-1. What are you thinking, Jason?
3-2.
To Leicester?
To Leicester.
You think it's going to be high scoring, do you?
I do.
And as FPL lads said, let's get on to the history then. Well, the history's saying 3-1 to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace have won 4 out of the last 6. They've scored 15 goals in this particular fixture. And like I said, there have been 2 red cards across the last 6, both for Leicester. Jamie Vardy, if you are thinking of captaining him, in the last 6 fixtures, he's played 5 times and has made 1 sub-appearance, and he's only got the 1 goal. So it doesn't look like the owns it. But then again, that's what we said about the Southampton game, and look how that went. Finally, we move on to the final game of the weekend. It's Everton versus Spurs. Once again, I think this is going to be a bit of a tight game, but I think just like Staz said regarding Crystal Palace and Leicester, I think Spurs will just about come out on top of this. What are you thinking of this game, Staz?
I mean, this could be a tough one. I think Tottenham will win, but Everton are a team that they can go to a game like that as underdogs and play amazing and convince you they are a quality team and then lose to a lesser side. I think Tottenham will probably win this game 3-1, something like that, I believe.
Okay.
Wow.
Luke Jones saying lots of goals.
If I had to gamble on which Everton we would see this game week, I would gamble on the worst side of Everton.
So yeah, we've got FPL lads saying 1-1. We've got 6-2 Simeon Bachelor. We've got 4-1 Spurs, 1 Rovers Vlogs. Just 1 second, I'm double checking the volume on my mic. I don't know if this is working fine or not. 0-0 says Mavid in chat. So I don't know if it's going to be 0-0. Everton 2-0 says Notorious Nerd. Jay Willington says 3-1 Spurs. Anurag saying 3-1 Spurs. I'm going with 2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. The history's going 3-2. Everton have scored 2 goals in 3 of the last 6 fixtures versus Tottenham. Tottenham, though, have scored 19 goals versus Everton, so it looks like it could be goals galore. And I've also won 4 out of the last 6, although I do agree with someone in the chat about 6 seconds ago who said about... FPL lads saying that Spurs are not won away since February, so it could actually be, like FPL said, a tight game. And as Stas mentioned, Everton could turn up and cause problems and could end up 1-1. There we have it. So just quickly to repeat the history regarding the captaincy. So Sterling, 4 starts, 1 sub appearance, 3 goals, 2 assists over the last 6 fixtures versus Southampton. Aguero, 5 starts, 3 goals, 2 assists. Well, you could make that now 6 starts out of the last 7. And that would be 5 goals and 2 assists. And then Kevin De Bruyne, 4 starts, 1 goal, 4 assists. And then Jamie Vardy, if you're thinking of captaining him, 5 starts, 1 sub appearance. He's just got the 1 goal. So reality is that actually the history, based on the game that happened obviously in the Carabao Cup, could suggest that Aguero could be the best captaincy choice this particular game week. Stas, what are you thinking on this particular game week? Have you done any transfers? What are you thinking regarding captaincy?
Yeah, I've done my transfers early.
Have you posted your team in the screenshots? You haven't, have you?
I mean, I really want to, but I gotta get going like in 1 minute, 2 minutes. So like I would just wanted to say a couple of sentences and go, sure, if it's okay by you. So I brought in Lundstrom this week. I actually had him before I wildcarded, and then I decided to pull him out because I thought Sheffield would struggle a little bit. But it seems they're much more stable than I thought defensively. I brought in Lundstrom this week for let me remember. I brought Lundstrom and Vardy this week instead of Tammy Abraham and Otamendi.
Wow, really strange transfers considering the opponents that each transfer you're getting rid of is playing. I mean, why have you done that for? Is it just the price rising of Vardy?
I've done that because well, first of all, the Vardy transfer I made because I wanted to get him as quickly as I could to get the profit of the price changes, and I pulled out Otamendi and Tammy because, I mean, when you look at Manchester City side, you look at John Stones, who's supposed to be back I don't know if he's going to be back this game week or the next one, but he gotta be ready for Liverpool. I think at least that's what I read in the last few days. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I pulled out Tammy because I think that too much people own him, and I think that when he scores, I would lose a lot of places, and I understand that, but I also understand that I don't trust his consistency. I think that Chelsea's schedule moving forward is a little bit tougher than what people might think. And I mean, he will score goals, definitely, but if I can invest that money that money in guys that I more trust, that I have more trust in, I would do that. And right now I trust Vardy more, not because of who he is, but because who are Leicester right now.
Okay, I see your point, but I'll look forward to seeing you on Sunday Surgery, where you we talk about how Tammy Abraham has punished you for taking him out of your team. No, but I
listen. I mean, you're probably right, because if I'm going to judge from the last game weeks, I mean, even Leicester City, I had 3 guys from Leicester City, and none of them was the right guy. I mean, I had Schmeichel, Madison, and Pereira, 21 points together. So
It's better than my 6.
yeah, but I had 3 guys. I had 3 guys from this team. I mean, Tammy could score this week. Yeah, Jason, I think you're right. But I'm trying to look the long term, and I'm pretty confident that in the long term I made the right decision.
Okay, well, at the end of the day, if you honestly think you've done the right thing, then that's good, because some of the times, you regret things you don't do. And let's just hope you do not regret the things you do in this case. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really, thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
It's a pleasure.
We were just sorry, before you go, Staz, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
People were just wondering, we're detecting an accent. Where are you specifically in the world?
Yeah, I'm sorry about my accent and my English. I'm from Israel.
It's fine. It's perfectly. It's better than some of the English people we get on.
I'm from Israel.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's great. It's amazing to get people across the world to talk to us about fantasy football.
How are you watching this specific stream?
Like anyone else, Steve-O, on a laptop.
I'm watching right now. I'm on my phone, but I'm watching on my laptop. When I work, I work at security, so I have a lot of dead time to watch YouTube content. And I mean, your content is probably the best I found in terms of FPL and discussion. And so I believe that your channel has a huge future in front of you. I mean, it's just, you can be worldwide eventually, I believe, because the FPL won't be smaller. It's always going to grow and evolve, because the Premier League is becoming more and more strong in a lot of countries. So I believe that you have a bright future in front of you.
Thank you, Staz. Well, I'll tell you one thing from me and Steve-O, and he probably nodded his head. We're not going anywhere. And literally, we're going to keep improving the show, keep improving everything we do. We're looking to just constantly improve, get you guys feedback, and move forward. But thank you ever so much, Staz, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, dude.
Yeah. And one of the things I'm going to invest this winter period is in a new computer, because I think I'm going to have to get an upgrade to my computer because I've got a lot of things I want to do for the show, and in a nutshell, my CPU is running at. I mean, it's at 60% now, 60% CPU. But at the beginning of the stream, we had multiple chats going off. We had I've got loads of browser sources going, but essentially I want to do more with the channel. And to do more with the channel, I'm going to have to get an octa-core, an octa-core CPU with about 16 threads. So there we go. Looking for a Ryzen 7 or a Ryzen 9, probably a Ryzen 9. There you go.
That's completely gone over my head. But as Chelsea Flyer has just said, who cares about that? Let's hear the transfers. Let's get into everybody slagging off what I've done, because I have some exclusive news. And just to let everybody know that my exclusive news, I've put my team in the screenshots, Jason.
Okay, I'll bring it up one sec. There we go. Don't say anything. I'll get it up.
Don't worry. My exclusive news was revealed for our premium members only. Now, we don't publicise or we don't really advertise our membership availability, but one of the memberships is for $4.99. And as ever, me and Jason are trying to think of a way in which we can reward the guys that pay for the premium package. And I did an hour-long podcast this morning revealing what I've done transfer-wise. And also some news about Saturday, but we don't care about Saturday for now. We care about now. And yeah, I've done 2 transfers. I've done a -4.
I don't believe you've done that.
And I do. And it's kind of like based on
Martial.
me listening back to our first ever live stream, and then I was needing to do a -8, so I had 2 free transfers, and I did 4 transfers in total. And I was just saying to yourself and Dan, I was like, I've got to do something to this team. It's just a bunch of deadwood in here. I've got to get rid of certain players. And I listened to what Davey FPL said yesterday, and I just thought, stuff it. Now, I brought in, I got rid of Callum Wilson and Hudson-Odoi, and I brought in Mopay, and I brought in Martial. Simply put, the reasonings being is because I'm sick to death of owning Callum Wilson. I don't give a damn. Now, by the way, this is quite difficult not swearing now, because I was swearing like a madman on the premium content, but whatever.
Oh, talk about that. We've just got a new member, Greasy Trumpet.
really?
There you go, Greasy Trumpet. You can now watch Steve-O's rant podcast, where I think he swears more times than a swear jar can possibly fill. I don't like it. Don't like those moves. Sorry.
Oh, it's a good thing you're not my team. Then it's a good thing.
As a rival, I think it's amazing. You taking a -4, mate. I really do.
Why? Can I just explain why I've done it? But
go on. Sorry, how rude.
Talk, and then we'll just get your opinion. So, I'm fully aware that Callum Wilson, next 5 or 6 fixtures, if I bring them up here, Man United at home, which ironically he scored in the fixture last year, Newcastle away, Wolves at home, they're solid fixtures, and Brighton's fixtures are absolutely rubbish. I'm not going to lie, but to be honest with you, I'm just sick to death of Callum Wilson at the moment. He can't do anything.
How many game weeks did you have him in your team for, Steve?
I couldn't tell you that.
Since your wildcard, wasn't it?
I will let you know in a second. Yeah, I think it was. Was this a wildcard? Maybe, yeah. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't have a clue.
And their fixtures are better than Brighton's.
Yes, no, I know. I am. I have just mentioned that.
And yeah, I know. I'm just reiterating that point, as you would say.
I've had it since game week 3.
Have you? Really?
Yeah.
I thought you had him more recent than that. Okay.
I'm just sick to death.
I can see that move backfiring. I can see it backfiring on you. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, no. I said it in the pod earlier on. For anybody that's watching this, there's a betting person. So Matt Brunton, Brew, you two listen up. If you want to put some money down for Callum Wilson to score and Bournemouth to win, carry on. If you want to put money on Hudson-Odoi to get his first ever Premier League goal, put your money down, because it's all going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen. It's all going to backfire on me. I'm fully aware of this. But you know what? I couldn't care less. My season's just going down the pan. I'm pretty much 2 million in the world. There's nothing I can do this season. And you know what? I just thought, stuff it. I'm just going to do this -4. At the end of the day, Callum Wilson over the last 3 has blanked. Statistically, Bournemouth, I read, are basically rubbish in attack now, but they're really, really good defensively. Hudson-Odoi, I was a bit annoyed that he didn't start versus Burnley. He then goes and starts in the Carabao Cup, and I'm worried about his minutes, and I think Pulisic is now going to start more often. So I just thought, you know what, with Martial, his statistics regarding the fact that, you know, he just seems to like to score for Man United, and also whenever him and Rashford, whenever they start together, it's like a 70% win ratio. And you know what, I'm happy with it. I just want to get on with it now. I just want to get this game week over with and see what comes about, and which links me into the other exclusive piece of news, which is this Saturday I will be doing a match of the day challenge stream. So for anybody who's watching this wondering what on earth are you talking about, I'm going to be trying my hardest to avoid all football results on Saturday. It's going to be virtually impossible, but I am going to be telling my various members of staff not to come near me. I don't want to hear anything about football whatsoever. I won't be accessing my phone other than to watch the bill. But when it comes to 10:30 or 10:25, I'll be hitting the live stream. I'm not going to be looking at the chat. I'm not going to have the chat up or anything. And you're just going to watch me reacting live to what's going on match of the day / of course, what's happened in there's 8 fixtures, by the way, on Saturday. So you'll be watching me reacting live to what goes on. And of course, seeing me curling up into a ball and dying when I see Callum Wilson has scored a penalty because
Hudson-Odoi got 2 assists.
Hudson-Odoi got 2 assists. He started and he gets his first ever Premier League goal. But Jason, yeah, you don't like the moves. Talk to me about Martial. I don't care about Mopé. I get that, but Martial, you're not a fan of that.
I said I was going to stay away from United FPL wise. I know he's back from injury now. A little bit too soon, I think. I think we're used to seeing United going through these patches. I do rate Martial as being one of our best attacking threats. Don't get me wrong, but it's just that -4 to get Mupay in for Wilson. I just think that's going to end up giving you negative points over the next few weeks. I just got this feeling. I hope I'm wrong. And do you know what, Steve? I'd love it if you can this will be your time where you can be as smug as possible and say, you know what, Jason, I did a move. I took a -4 and I've overtaken you. And I would absolutely, I would love it because you've had so much, bad luck during the course of the season. Luck. This is a roll of the dice, Steve-O. This is differential. This is your differentials now on me. Because let's face it, the rest of our teams look very similar. So yeah, I don't know if I would do. I've done those moves specifically, but I can respect the moves that you've done. I just have a feeling that they're not going to pay off, and I'd be honestly, I'd be great. It'd be great if I get proven wrong on that. Your captaincy's on Aguero.
Yeah.
How likely?
It's got to be. No, it's going to be on him. It's got to. I mean, Davey FPL made this point that if he was in my, and he was being honest, he's not going to come on here and give you rubbish advice or whatever. And he was being really genuine. And he was just like, look, mate, if I was in your position, I'd just stick it on Aguero. And you know what? It makes complete logical sense. It really does. And like I said, FPL Penguin, you've got some news to reveal to us and the audience in a minute, whenever if you are going to be coming live on air, because in fact, do you know what, Jason? Let's bring on FPL Penguin now.
Okay. FPL Penguin, you're now live on air on the Gameweek 11 preview. Welcome. Can you hear us?
Come on, Penguin, we need you to reveal your exclusive news, despite the fact you've put it up on Twitter and, of course, in the chat. But it'd be nice to hear why you've done this particular move. If not, I'm just going to have to reveal the news for you. Come on, Penguin. You're always wanting to come live on air. A 3, a 2. No, he's not there. Right, okay. Right, well... So for everybody listening in on chat, listening in now on audio, Jason, if you want to bring up his team, he put it in there at 1625. But Penguin is going to be triple captaining Aguero. That's right. FPL Penguin is #cashing in, and he is triple captaining Aguero. Like I said, I really want him to get in live on air and tell us why he's doing this. I mean,
he's in chat now saying his mic's on. Yeah, but you also muted, mate. It's not your mic being off. It's your mic. Your mic's muted. You need to unmute your microphone, my friend. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. He's unmuted it now. There we go.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Thank you. I had it off. I had my mic on. Don't know what happened there.
Anyway, triple captaining Aguero. Tell the audience what are you doing this for?
Well, he hasn't done it yet. You better do this, Penguin. This better not be a publicity stunt.
No, not trolling you, I am actually doing it. I'm going ahead with it.
All right.
Tell us why.
Well, I just had that gut feeling I know I've always said I was going to go for the double game weeks when those FA Cup games fixtures kick in, but I don't know why. I just felt in that mood to do it because I know Aguero and Jesus played together this midweek in the cup, but since Saturday, Aguero's played in the last 2 games 104 minutes, while Jesus has played 177 minutes. Since Saturday. But I feel confident. I think Aguero's going to start up front, and then Jesus in the Champions League in midweek, and then Aguero against Liverpool the week after. The next league fixture for City. So I'm doing it. I'm going for it. I mean, I know it didn't work out for you, Jason, because you got an assist for Aguero against Everton. But I know plenty of people use the triple captain on Sterling or Aguero. Didn't work out. Got caught out with the Pepper rotation, but I'm going for it and cashing in. I'm doing it.
Well, I mean, well done. I mean, like we said, Steve-O said in I think, was it last game week, we were talking about the triple captaincy chip and about, using it on a game week that, I think the majority of people, I mean, I haven't seen the polls. But the people that have hung on to Aguero will captain him probably. But I think Sterling is going to be a highly captain's option. De Bruyne. I think if you've got Aguero in your team, you've got to put the armband on him. And to triple captain him, I mean, it's risky. It's really, really, really risky. And I tell you, your heart is going to be beating.
I know.
Right, I'll give you this scenario now. I know this sounds ridiculous, but Aguero does exactly what he did against Southampton last year, which is get a goal and 2 assists. But Sterling outshines him and gets, again, 2 goals and 2 assists. Would you be happy with the Aguero triple captaincy?
What would he have to get for that?
If for example, essentially Sterling outperforms Aguero by getting an extra goal or 2 instead.
I'll be gutted. Yeah, but the minimum I want from him is probably at least 2 goals. I'll be up. I don't know. I'm going for it, guys. I'm going for it. Play your own game. I'm doing it. Throwing it in. Doing it. Once it's gone, it's gone. But if it doesn't work out, that's on me.
If you own Sterling, would you triple captain him instead?
I would. Instead of Aguero, yeah. I would. If I had Sterling. But unfortunately, I took him out 2 or 3 game weeks ago. But, that's fine. I'd rather, out of KDB and Aguero, rather go for Aguero. KDB's more certain to start this Saturday than Aguero. I'd rather go for Aguero. I'm just taking a chance, feeling confident. Just going for it.
Now, you've obviously got Callum Wilson in your team. I've just taken him out. Your thoughts on me getting rid of Callum Wilson for Mopay?
I think that's an all right move. That I was thinking about getting Mopay. I'm getting a bit sick of Callum Wilson now. I think, blanking against Watford and Norwich, and God knows what he'll do against Manchester United. I'm hoping he'll score. But if he can't score against Norwich and Watford, I mean, what chance has he got scoring against Man United? I do want to get rid of Callum Wilson. I am thinking of getting Jamie Vardy into my team very soon, because he's got likes of Everton at home, Watford, and then Norwich the next few game weeks ahead. So I would like Jamie Vardy. And I've got Maddison in my team as well. After that 9-0 win against Southampton, and Maddison just getting the last goal, finally getting a goal in that thriller. I really need to get Jamie Vardy in my team. I think he's going to get quite a few goals in those fixtures. I really do.
I just want to say, I've just listened to the guys in chat. I don't know who it was who suggested it. I do apologise. I just read what you said. I've added a poll in the top right hand side of your screen. You can click on the I button, and I'm asking the question: who is your captain for Game Week 11? So it'd be nice to hear, once we've talked about our teams, who's leading the elite in terms of the Elite FPL community, who people are going for their captaincy pick. So just feel free to just put in your captaincy pick there. Okay, guys. No, I completely agree with you, Penguin. I think Vardy is a great shout. I don't think it's a knee jerk. at all getting him in that free-flowing Leicester team that are flying high in the league. I think they're going to be flying high all season. They've got such a potent attack, great midfield. I think anyone looking to get him in, obviously he's going to be ruining the price rises. I understand that. If they can get him in, I think get him in. I think it's perfect. You don't see the poll. You don't see the poll. What? I've just created the poll. What are you on about, guys? Let me refresh the stream. Refresh the stream. It should be there.
Before we let you go, Penguin, just your thoughts on Aston Villa versus Liverpool. Do you think you'll just come out on top? Do you think it'll be an easy victory? I mean, we had
No, I don't think it'll be an easy victory. I expect a real big test. Villa Park. I expect it to be a very, very good atmosphere at Villa Park, and they've been kind of defensive, and I think it's going to be a very tough game. So I did put in the chat before a 2-1 win for Liverpool, something narrow like that. I think we'll probably concede. We've got Alisson in goal. I think we might concede being away from home, but I don't see it being like a 4-1 or 3-0 win for Liverpool. I don't see that. I see it being a very tight game for us in that game.
Brilliant. Penguin, thank you for joining us, and
cheers, lads. Appreciate it.
Join us on Saturday at some point when
mate.
We'll see how your triple captaincy got on.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, now, Penguin. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Jace.
Cool. All right.
For anybody in the waiting room, we've only got about 25 minutes or so left, so we are going to be getting through your calls quite quickly. I've just posted for everybody just to see, Jason, in the team screenshots. I've posted your guys' community team, and we have got a poll. Talking of polls, in the Discord poll vote, it's all about your Elite FPL community team, and as of right now, the polls are this: who would you like to transfer out? Is it Bowley, Wilson, or Kelly? It's a landslide. Everybody wants to get rid of Bowley because obviously he's injured. And then who would you like to replace him with? It's pretty tight. It's really between Chilwell and Stevens of Sheffield United. But the other options are Van Aanholt, Lascelles, David Luiz, Otamendi, or Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Like I said, if you want to go to... In fact, wow, I didn't see that one. It's very close between Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Chilwell, and Ender Stevens. But if you want to get your own votes for your team, the Elite FPL community team, for your one free transfer, then get them in now. In fact, someone's already done that. They've put it on Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So those polls will be closing at some point tomorrow, I think, and then we'll be finding out who Andy and Phil want to put the captaincy on from all your votes. Jason, do you want to talk about your team, about what you're doing this particular game week, who you're captaining, transfers that you may have done?
No, saved the transfer this game week. Just
wow,
just gonna kind of just tie it over. No, of course I haven't, mate. Of course I haven't. When have I ever saved a transfer? Even when I said I'm going to save a transfer, no. I've jumped on the Vardy bandwagon, my friend. Here we go. Right, so if you weren't worried, Steve-O, before, you might be now. Let me just bring it up. Okay, so I have got the team that's on the screen as we speak. I'll just read it out for those listening in on audio or those hard of sight and can't quite read the tiny little letters. We've got Ramsdale in goal. We've got Lundstrom, Soyuncu, Rico. We've got double up at Bournemouth, yeah, but it's not by want of trying, believe it me. And then we've got Mason Mount, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, and Mane, with an attacking three of Abraham, Vardy, and Aguero with the captaincy to enable the Vardy transfer. So I also did Callum Wilson out, Steve-O, but I replaced him with Vardy, and in my opinion, that's a massive upgrade. And I've just basically decided that I don't need my third sub spot, so I've downgraded Loughton. We all know your mate Loughton. He got me that assist those three or 4 weeks ago. Yeah, him to Winston Reid, the non-playing Winston Reid of West Ham. And my bench is looking pretty red with Matip there, but I'm hoping that Hudson-Odoi can be my man off the bench, just in case I do have a disappointing Aguero benching or anyone else possibly doesn't feature.
Scott Speed straight away saying you've benched Hudson-Odoi, so why are you questioning Steve-O transferring him out?
I was more against the Mupai transfer, to be honest with you.
Can I just add to that? Just to give you more context, Scott Speed. Last week, Jason got rid of Son for Hudson-Odoi and benched him, and this is the kind of mind. But don't worry, Hudson-Odoi came off the bench for that whopping 0.
He got 0 points. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. There's a plan. There's a plan, and probably Hudson-Odoi is going to be a short-term member of my team. So we'll have to have a plan for him. And it's probably going to involve upgrading my defense because my defense is looking a little bit sorry for itself at the moment. But when you've got the likes of Lundstrom and Rico to fall back on, that can get you those assists and those clean sheets. Who needs Trent Alexander-Arnold? Who needs Van Dijk? Who needs Pereira and Chilwell? I don't. I've got Soyuncu, my friends. I've got Soyuncu. There we go. I think you accidentally muted me before. No, I didn't. Penguin. I didn't mute you.
Anyway, so are you happy with those transfers?
I'm happy with those transfers, mate. I did it Sunday night. Yeah,
wow,
I got it over and done with, and forgot about it. And for the rest of the week, literally hit the price rises. I was happy with the price rise. Always happy with the price rise. Unfortunately, Aguero went down in price. Gutted about that, but it's going to go back in price anyway. Up when he gets a hat trick this weekend. So it's all good. I think in the hood.
The team's reminding me of your team from last year with like David Silva in, and the fact that you're it's just, let's be honest here, it's just an 11 with Hudson-Odoi. It's very good. I'm not going to lie. It's a very, very good team. Manchester Reds, my God, I haven't seen you for a while. Good evening. Where have you been? But yeah, that's an incredible team.
Well, Vince Chapman says if Vardy starts to look pants, we know why. Listen, all right. You've got no one to blame but yourself or Steve-O's internet, okay? You've got no one to blame. Hello, Manchester Reds. But yeah, Hudson-Odoi's good enough to be on my bench. That's what I'm going to say. Money on my bench.
Brilliant.
Going against all my Anyway, yes.
Should we bring on... let's bring on Peeps. We tried Peeps earlier on. He wasn't there, and then he's back again. Let's see if he can... see if his mic's unmuted, shall we?
Hello, Peeps. Can you hear us? Good evening, Peeps. Can you hear us?
Hey, Jason.
Hi. How you doing, Peeps?
Hey, Steve. Sorry, I was having some problem before.
No worries. Have you turned the stream off now?
Yeah, I have muted the stream so that I can hear you guys properly.
Excellent, Peeps.
And Jason, we need Alexander Trent Arnold, man. We need him in our team.
Why? Yeah. He doesn't do anything.
He's gonna just the match before. He was like a monster, man. He was like a monster.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything, did he? He didn't get any returns. I'm not bitter, but
mark my words, Steve. In the next 4 weeks, you're gonna change your words.
I detect an accent. I think you're from somewhere near India.
I am from Bangladesh.
There we go. Welcome.
Sorry to interject. Just some news. I'm assuming he's being serious. Show me the Mane. Just jokingly saying, Steve, have you hacked into my account and copied my transfers? So, wow, and he's saying that he's going to captain
Mopay. Yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. Show me the Mane. Even you're not that ballsy. Yeah, I look forward to that Saturday.
Just to make the point that show me the Mane if he's saying...
I'll eat a donut just for you, Mane, if you do that.
If he's saying what I've done, which is bringing in Martial and Mopay, and he's going to be captaining Mopay, show me the Mane, the main man that's top of our Cash Mini League, and everything seems to be going right.
Peeps, can you do me a favour? Would you be able to post your team in the team screenshots for me so I can put it up on the screen?
I have actually posted it about an hour and 20 minutes before in Rate My Team.
Right, okay. Let me have a quick look for it then while you talk to Steve-O. So...
Who do you support, Peeps?
Liverpool.
And what do you think on the score then versus Aston Villa? What do you think on the scoreline between Aston Villa and yourselves?
Liverpool are gonna concede. It's gonna be 3-1.
Brilliant. And what's Trent Alexander-Arnold going to do in that game then? So he's not going
He's
to get a
gonna have
clean
an
sheet. He's
assist.
going to give me 10
He's
assists.
gonna have an
3
assist,
sorry.
and he's gonna have a single assist minimum, and then maybe some bonus points. Minimum.
Wow, minimum.
There
you go, Steve-O. Guaranteed all your money back, mate. Courtesy of Peeps. Right, Peeps, I want to say, looking at your team, we've got Nick Pope in goal, Tamori, Otamendi, Soyuncu. We've got Mason Mount, Martial, Salah, power 5 midfield. Mason Mount, Martial, Salah, Sterling, David Silva. Wow, with a Aubameyang and a Abraham. That's a very, very, very... I like that team. That's a very, very good team. I like it. I really, really like your team. The question is, you're talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold. How are you going to get him into your team? Have you got a plan for that? Is it going to involve possibly Otamendi or something like that?
Yes, it has to be Otamendi. It's a transfer waiting to happen. I have to maybe downgrade Oba or maybe David Silva at some point.
And who would you
I'm
downgrade?
not making any transfer. I'm not making any transfers this week, so I'm gonna have two free transfers next week to make that happen. I will think about it. Next week it will be Manchester City versus Liverpool, so
whoa,
I will have about 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, you've got the luxury in having a Aubameyang there with money that's available to be released.
But I'm sorry, it's a family-friendly show, but Oba is a pain in the ass. Oba is a pain in the ass.
Sorry again. You got to keep him in. I think for this game week and to see how he does at home to Wolves. I think he's got a good chance in that game. But just quickly, I want to say thank you for that member from Anurag there. Thank you ever so much. Welcome to the membership, and I hope you enjoy that Steve-O exclusive X-rated podcast. I mean, you've got that ability to release funds and bring in Trent. I think that having Trent he should be one of the most considered players in your FPL team, other than Kevin De Bruyne. And you don't own Kevin De Bruyne. Like, I would be like, Kevin De Bruyne is got to be in my team. You don't own him. How do you feel about that?
Like many of the people, I made a mistake. Like, I dropped Kevin De Bruyne for some player. I think it was for Yarmolenko. And my plan was to drop Son to have De Bruyne, but I couldn't come up with the funds. I had to take a lot of minuses. So I thought, let's keep it. Let's take David Silva. And I believe he's one of the best players of Premier League. And I got him last week and he gave me the points. I was like, wow, nice.
Okay, well, I mean, I hope it works out for you. I hope you're free on the weekend to come and join us on the Sunday Surgery. Again,
it's tough for me to come into your live, but today I was waiting for about 4 hours your live stream to actually come. Yeah, it's a great platform that you guys have started. Actually,
we'll be talking
community and everything.
Well, I know it's much appreciated. We had a gentleman from Israel. We've had yourself from Bangladesh. We have people.
I have been following you guys from last season, to be exact.
Come on tomorrow's show.
Yeah, tomorrow's show. We're talking all about it tomorrow's show. Tomorrow night, this time tomorrow, we'll be talking about the history behind Elite FPL. We'll be celebrating a year of being live on YouTube, of meeting all these amazing people that are part of our community. And, you know, we've got people from South Africa, New Zealand, Australia.
Yeah, it's an international community. You guys are bringing on.
Absolutely international community. We've had United States, Caribbean. You know, it's just amazing. It is amazing. But it's a pleasure to have you on, because I know a lot of you guys, especially like Kushar Giri in chat. It's 3:32 in the morning. Some of you guys stay up really late to watch us live, and I'm
47 a.m. in my country now.
Wow.
It's it's just really, really. I mean, it's hard to put it into words. And I keep, as Steve-O said in the stream he did earlier today, that we shouldn't constantly keep thanking people, but. But to be honest, I find it really hard to thank people that stay up to 3 a.m. to watch us. I just thank you. I really appreciate it. And it just means the world. Anyway, it's been a pleasure talking to you this evening. And Peeps,
likewise.
Peeps, if you're free tomorrow, come on, my friend. We're talking all about it.
Definitely.
Cheers,
Thank
dude.
you, guys.
Cheers. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Bye now. That's amazing. Right, let's bring on
Schwab. Yeah, thank you. Schwab Malik, really appreciate the kind words there. He's a regular listener from India. Really, really cool. And like I said, everybody just join us tomorrow evening where we'll be saying thank you to all 3,000 of you. But could you imagine?
Guys, oh yeah, this is a good point. We're just going to sell out right now, okay? We're like literally 15 subscribers away from 3,000. It's very unlikely, but if we could get that 3,000 mark tomorrow night, literally, I think I may drink some alcohol. If we can hit that 3,000 mark tomorrow night. Anyway, we've got a few guys waiting on in the waiting room to come in.
Let's bring on Stein, I think, one of our rivals.
Yeah, Stein, who's a rival of ours. How you doing, Stein?
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm
Can you hear
great.
me?
I'm great, Stein. I can hear you perfectly, loud and clear. Are you excited for Gameweek 11? Do you think Gameweek 11 is the game week that's going to rekindle people's passion for Fantasy Premier League?
No.
I'm very excited because I've done 3 substitutions with a -4. So I'm really excited, and I've got big hopes for my defence this week. By the way. I have posted my team in screenshots, so
I've got it here.
You've moved up to 17th in our Cash Mini League. You're on form. Are you confident regarding this? And in fact, do you want to tell us what another one. Interesting. Do you want to tell us what your transfers were then, Stein?
Sorry, Steve.
I see you got Perez in there. Bloody hell. Okay.
Your transfers, Stein.
This is a game week 1 team, important. Isn't it? Bar Connolly.
Sorry? I didn't get that.
It looks very much like a game week 1 team for me, Bar Connolly. I mean, it's a lot of popular picks from back in game week 1. And obviously, Connolly there. I mean, I admire Connolly. I really do. I think he's a great pick. And personally, I think he's much more value for money than Mupai, but that's just my opinion. Steve?
To be honest, yeah, I've got Perez in because he was in my team right at the beginning. Martial was in my team right at the beginning, and also I had a 4.5 million player in Greenwood, if you remember, and so I've basically got Connolly in to take that place. But what I have got is 2 million in the bank. So at some point, I will have to think where I'm going to spend that money. Again, I've still got an issue with Montoya, Fredericks. I'm not sure about Tomori. Sacco, possibility he might go. But I'm very happy with my Martial, my Perez, and my Connolly. So I'm over the moon. I'm really excited about what Lundstrom and Alexander-Arnold might do this weekend.
So I obviously brought in for a -4 Mopé and Martial. Show me the Mane has done it. He's top of our Cash Mini League. What are your thoughts then on what I've done? I can speak to anybody from India, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, someone down the road from me. Can't hear a flaming thing. I was just saying, Stein, regarding my transfers, Martial and Mopé in. What do you think?
I'm going to translate.
For some reason,
I'm going to translate. All right.
No. For some reason, I can't hear you guys. I don't know what's happened here.
You can't hear me.
But I think I'm having issues with my headphones, to be honest with you. So I'm half listening to you on the stream. So it seems like I'm a week behind what you're asking me. But
well, turn the stream off. That will help.
Sorry.
If you turn the stream off, that will help.
I've only got 8 minutes left.
Turn the stream off.
We'll be here all day.
Yeah, we advise everyone to turn the stream off because it's very confusing if you don't. But yeah, okay. So can you hear me, Stein?
I can hear you, but it's my headphones, Jason. For some unknown reason, they're playing up. It's very, very quiet, and I've got the volume turned up completely.
Okay. Well, just a question from Steve-O. What do you think of his Mupai and Martial transfer?
Excellent. I think he's done brilliant there. And I know for a fact his Martial move, if he has patience with him over the next 4 to 5 weeks, I can see Martial hauling at least twice.
Yeah,
which
so
means he's possibly going to haul at least 3 times.
So I should be scared of Steve-O then in that case with his differentials he's brought in.
Well, no, Jason, because you've been very clever with your David Silva move. And it wouldn't surprise me if at some stage you think, oh, Kevin De Bruyne is going to get 2 assists. Well, actually, so did David Silva. Do you know what I mean? He's that type of player. He just does everything quietly.
At
the end of the season, he's somewhere just under 200 points, and you're thinking, well, how did he get there? Well, he was playing regularly for Man City. That's how he got there.
If City get 4 or 5 goals, like a lot of people in chat were saying, I wouldn't put it past David Silva to be on 1 or 2 of them, and also Kevin De Bruyne to be on 1 or 2 of them too. Absolutely correct. But I mean, it's probably going to be one of those things that we kind of cancel each other out. That seems to happen quite a lot, doesn't it, Steve-O? When it comes to
here's
points.
The thing, Jason. Here's the thing with the Man City game against Southampton. They didn't face Kevin De Bruyne. They didn't face David Silva, and they didn't face Sterling. So it's going to get worse for them.
They're going to shut up. They're going to try and shut up shop against City. It's going to be a battering ram. It's going to be a battering ram, and I don't think there's going to be a Watsit that's going to be holding that door shut. It's going to be.
I think you're right. Well, I've gone with the 5-0 as my prediction.
Oh, wow.
I expect it.
Why did you go
I
with
expect
Perez?
it to be that way.
Chat are talking about it as well. Perez. Why did you go with Perez? That Southampton game is an anomaly. I wouldn't expect that performance each week out of Leicester.
I don't know if you want to click on him and bring up his history and see what he's done over the last 3 games. I think you're going to be surprised.
Yeah, no.
Over his last 3 appearances.
Yeah, his last 3 appearances, he's done very, very well. I agree.
Right. Now, here's the thing. Everyone thought this is what he would do right at the beginning of the season. However, he's transferred to a new team. He's playing under a new manager. He's in a new squad. It took him a little while to settle. It's only 10 games. It's only 10 games. And if you look at his last 3 games, he's been coming into form since game week 7. So, I'm quite happy to have him in my team, just like I was at the beginning of the season.
And to
it's
think,
just so happens that
his
form didn't start at the beginning. It's starting in game week 7, let's say. And I'm getting him in for game week 11.
And to think also that he's only 2.2 million more than Hudson-Odoi.
Well, how much is Hudson-Odoi? I'm not even too sure. He's 5.9.
We're doing -8, are we, Jason? We think and then he goes and gets a hat trick, of course.
Well, I'm not being funny. In the position where you guys are, right now, a -8 isn't going to have much effect on your team. I mean, in terms of a detrimental effect.
I don't know.
I don't think.
I don't know. There's still there's very little between the top. I would say the top 2 million teams at the moment. There's not a great deal between. I would say that the 500,000 to 1.5 million. There's not a lot of points at all. It's one good game week away from being shot up into the top 500. Honestly, 500,000.
Well, I know I'm a 1 to I think 122k, and in another mini league that I'm in with my mates, I'm in 2nd place, and the top guy is on, I think he's 16 or 17 points in front of me, and he's like 55k in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know what? It's only game week 10. What happens if I pull away from him from game week 11 to game week 20? So, like I say, Jason, it's all about the last 10 game weeks.
Yeah,
from 28 to 38 is where it really, really matters.
There we go. Let's hope I'm holding on by then.
You're 35 points off 4th spot. Have you got any words while he's in chat for Show Me the Mane, who's top of our cash mini league, Stein? Are you coming to game?
I'm on my way. And now he's seen my team. My team has been revealed. It's out there for the community to see. be worried. That's all I'm saying.
What do you think
Be
of
worried.
him captaining Mupai?
Sorry?
What do you think of him captaining Mupai this week? Home to
Um,
Norwich.
Well, it's a huge differential in captain. But for me, I'm not worried because I'm positive that whatever
He's
Mupai does this weekend, I'm sure Aguero, Sterling and De Bruyne will match it simply because I expect City to win 5, possibly 6-0. I really do expect them to go for the jugular.
His luck's gonna. It's not gonna last, is it? His luck. I mean, we'll wait and see. But I think De Bruyne is a solid captaincy pick. Interesting that you stuck with Kane for all this time, to be honest. But again, that's obviously your choice to stick with him. I think there's better options elsewhere, personally. Especially, looking at your team that you don't own Sterling. Possibly, I would have, instead of spending those points getting Perez in, I would have possibly looked to, because the fact that you already got De Bruyne in your team, you could have even just done downgrade Kane to say, I don't know, someone like Tammy Abraham, and then Perez to Sterling.
Well, I'm not sure about Tabby Abrahams. I've had him in, and yes, he got an assist last weekend, but he hasn't done much. And I've taken him out because I don't think it will have a huge effect. If he does well at Watford, I'm going to do well. Well, I'm hoping that Connolly's going to do well at home against Norwich. So I'm thinking I'm matching him there, whatever he does.
Okay.
And let's see how it goes over the next couple of weeks, because I can always move Kane out easily.
Or even
But again,
Rashford. People talk about Rashford, but
sorry.
But people in chat, Mark in chat saying Rashford, but you've got Martial. I wouldn't double up Martial and Rashford. I wouldn't do a Booner.
No, but I am thinking of doubling up on Man United though. It has crossed my thoughts, and I'm thinking about defense really, nothing else.
Show me the Mane in chat has just given Steve-O a kiss of death. Steve-O,
no, he's giving himself. Oh, a minute, he's giving himself a kiss of death because remember he did these moves.
Oh my goodness!
Right.
But let's hope he doesn't want to give you a snog, eh?
Yeah, and on that note, Stein, have you got any final words before we let you go?
Yes, I have. I've stuck with my premium buy in Harry Kane, while everyone thinks it's, I should be downgrading and moving around. And I'll suggest that everyone else stick with your premium buy. That's it. That's the best I can give. That's the best advice I can give.
Well, I'm sticking with Aguero. There you go. I'm sticking with Aguero. He's punished me all so much this season, but I'm sticking with him anyway. There we go. Thank you ever so much,
you have
Stein.
to. Remember, they're premium buys for a reason, Jason.
Yeah, but you can also be stubborn. You can also be stubborn and not get rid when the time is due. And if Aguero's minutes are going to be limited more and more each week that goes by due to Jesus, then I think money's best invested in Sterling as opposed to Aguero. But I'm in that camp now. I've made my bed. I've got to sleep in it. I've got to reap what I've sown. How many more metaphors I can think of, and I'm hoping that he does well. But thank you, Stein, for coming on.
Yeah, cheers, dude. And join us tomorrow evening because you've been one of our hardcore followers since this time last year. So it'd be great to have you on celebrating a year.
Oh, I'll definitely be here, Steve. Don't worry about that.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers, Stein. Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
Bye.
Uncle Juicy TV, I mean, saying that he's made 3 transfers for a -4. Chilwell for Trent Alexander-Arnold, De Bruyne to Ghana, whoever that is, and Connolly for Wilson. So good luck with that, Uncle Juicy.
Yeah, good luck.
We've only got a few more minutes to have a couple more callers. I was thinking maybe bringing on a crazy chat.
We'll get them all on. We'll try to get as many of them as possible.
Yeah.
Crazy Jack, you're on air. It's Gameweek 11 preview. You're with Steve-O and myself. How you doing?
I'm doing good, yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to the rugby at the weekend.
God, obsessed with rugby on this channel.
Yeah. I would have hoped to win in the Saturday game, to be honest, but
I won't mention it again. But I've got your team up here. We got right. Let's dissect this. So, Pope in goal. Good.
Yep.
Good. Mendy, very good. Soyuncu, decent. Lovren, good. Sterling at home to Southampton is very good. Boyne is very good. Mane, very good. Mount,
Oh,
very
let's
good.
forget going for the team. We'll be here all night.
No. I want to finish. I want to finish. All right? It's my moment. King, not very good. Lacazette. I think Lacazette's going to punish you. Tammy Abraham. Good. There you go. So you got a 9 out of 11 from me in that team. All right. So I think that your captaincy should be on Sterling. What do you think about that?
De Bruyne hasn't blanked at home yet, so that is the basis I'm going on.
Wow. Also, the history suggesting going with De Bruyne as well.
Oh, the history's. Did you cut out them? But did you say the history goes with De Bruyne? By any chance? Was that it?
Yes. Just.
Yeah. Just. Oh well, that's even better then. De Bruyne hasn't blanked a single game at home. That is my basis. If he blanks finally, I mean, I doubt he'll be blank against Southampton. But if he does, then I'll suddenly look off. But when it's a good game for Man City at home, it's going to be on De Bruyne right now because he hasn't blanked a single game.
What do you think the score is going to be between Bournemouth and Man United?
Bournemouth, Man United. I reckon Bournemouth will win.
You saying that because you got King up front?
Yes. No.
You'd be more. What's your thoughts of Lundstram at home to Burnley?
Lundstram home to Burnley. See, I would personally think that'll be an easy draw, but I could just see it being a 1-1.
Okay.
I could just see it being a 1-1, and like Lundstram won't do anything. He'll just get a yellow card, as he always does somehow.
Well, I mean, we got people in chat saying Lundstram over King. I see why you're playing King. He's on penalties. The more I think, the more we see Bournemouth, the more we see of their great defensive assets and less of their attacking potential threat, so to speak.
They've done it right at home, though.
At home, they have done it right, yeah. And obviously, it's only been a bit of a slump in the goals over the last 2 or 3 weeks. But I'm just thinking, staring at that team, I think Lundstram may outscore King.
Yeah. No, I do look at that now. I think that is a better call, personally. Yeah.
I think the Lovren. I'm only saying Lovren good because obviously for this game week. By the way, I'm not saying he's a season keeper, chat. So don't get too carried away.
Lovren is only in because Matip is out. Once Matt is back, he's going straight back to the team.
Have you spent any points this week?
Yes, -8.
And what was that for? What was that for?
It was originally Salah to Mane, Mendy to Mendy. Then I had to get rid of Matip to get Lovren, and with that money I got Rico in. Okay. Kelly for Rico.
They're very sideways.
Yeah, they are very sideways moves.
Yeah, because I want the Liverpool coverage. I'm not like Robinson and Trent. They'll get the odd assist, but the most important thing I want is the clean sheets. Like after the Man City game, they've got the games. Lovren looks like to be the more. He's going to be the replacement to Matip. Once Matip's back, he's going to go straight back in to replace with Lovren. And yes, my plan. Like Cantwell, I don't think he's going to stick around much longer. I probably get downgraded to Donker to get the money needed to get Matip back in, unless Lovren somehow goes.
Yeah, that's the thing with Lovren, isn't it? It's a transfer waiting to happen. But he's going to be.
But Matip's out for
after the international break, I think, isn't it? Next time.
I think he said it's like 8 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, it's like at least 6 weeks.
Oh, don't say that.
No, I said at least 6 weeks. He's going to miss the Man City game and the next 3 Champions League games.
Okay.
So I don't know how long that is.
I'll have to have a look on that. But if that's the case, then I've got 2 playing bench players, and obviously Matip is essential for me. So okay, well
that's what I was going to say. If he wasn't going to be out for long,
thanks for sharing the bad news.
Yeah, like if he wasn't going to be out for long, like I would have kept him. But I heard he was going to be out for at least 6 weeks, so that's why I got rid of him now because he's going to go down.
These are rumours though at this point, aren't they? They're not confirmed. Yeah.
No, I think it's on the Liverpool website.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Chat, help me out here.
I think that's confirmed.
Is that Matip's out to the new year? Are you serious? Ari Hiroki, are you Anyway,
it's on the
I'll have a look.
website.
I'll have a look. I'll have a look later on. No worries. But thanks for that. That's really made my day. Appreciate it.
That's all right. Yeah.
That's why I've got Rico and Lundstrom. They'll cover him. That's fine. It's no
Oh,
issue.
Lovren's gonna get a hat trick now. And then...
Are you confident this game week? Are you looking forward to this game week?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Man City do against Southampton. Obviously, they're not going to replicate. I assume they won't replicate what Leicester did. But I want to see how Southampton reacts to that game, because obviously now they're playing against the big boys away. I want to see how they react. Obviously, they're going to get smashed, most likely. I don't see them pulling off a Wolves. Lacazette hat-trick.
Well, yeah, only because you own him, of course. No, absolutely. I could see why you've gone with, like I said to you before. I think Lacazette is a great pick. I mean, you made the argument he's going to, be just in for as much points as Aubameyang, you would imagine, for a cheaper price point.
Yeah. At home. A game has started. He has not blanked.
Yeah, obviously he was out injured, back now. Again, I hope that you with us on Sunday to discuss how he gets on. Are you going to be available to join us tomorrow night where we celebrate a year's anniversary?
Yeah, sure. I should be there. Most likely.
Awesome. That's great. Any final thoughts before we move on to the next caller? We're very, very strapped for time at the moment.
Oh, sorry. Don't be upset when Vardy blanks and Lacazette gets a hat-trick. But don't buy Lacazette. He's my differential. Please don't buy it.
That's all right. I won't be upset. But thank you ever so much. Cheers, Crazy Jack.
Thank you
Appreciate
very much.
it.
Cheers, dude. Let's bring on chicken. Yep, there we are.
Chicken tikka masala. You're in with us on the Gameweek 11 preview with myself and Steve. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad. How you doing?
Your main rival in the mini league in Show Me the Mane. You're not that far off him. You're 8th. You've moved up to 8th in our cash mini league. Yeah. Are you confident of catching him this game week, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Fingers crossed it can happen soon.
You're going with the old. He's going with. Well, he's proclaiming that he's going to go with Mopay as captain. You're going with Sterling. Do you think that Sterling will just blast away the Mopay potential of scoring here, or not?
Do you believe he's going to go Mopay captain?
I'm going to take his word for it, and if not, we can just oust him live on air the next time we're on.
Kick him out of the cash league for lying. Clause. I've just added the clause. There we go. Anyway, carry on. So Sterling's always going to be a captaincy this week?
Yeah, definitely Sterling.
Yeah.
Right, and no thoughts on Jamie Vardy perhaps as an outside differential captain?
Nah, his records are poor anyway. He's only got one goal against them, and I think Sterling. Yeah,
but hold on, Jason's brought him in this week, so he's going to get a minimum of a goal and an assist, a double-digit return. You know what'll happen.
That'd be great. I'll just tune in to your rant, your members only rant podcast. That is the inevitable. I'll just be like with a bit of popcorn,
Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah. Right. I think your team's looking good. I think Callum Wilson is possibly someone that you might look to transfer out if he does another blank at home to United. What's your thoughts on that?
I think he'll score this week because
brilliant.
Because I
got rid of him. Yeah.
Yeah, because Steve-O got rid of him.
A lot of people are taking him out, and he's got quite a decent record against United. I think he scored last year against them as well.
Can I bring this to your attention, Charlie? I'd just like to hear your thoughts on this. One of the reasons, basically, why Show Me the Mane, and if anybody's watching this brand new and thinking, who the hell are you talking about here? Show Me the Mane is basically number one in our cash mini league that we're taking very, very seriously. Essentially, Show Me the Mane is not going with a Man City asset to captain because he's not very confident that either of them will 100% start. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they've won every single game in the Champions League, so they're not gonna be rested for that. I don't think. You never know with Pep, but I think they're pretty much through already in the Champions League, aren't they? So I don't think they're gonna rest De Bruyne and Sterling or something like that. I think they're both definitely gonna start. So yeah.
News. Well, I think that each to their own. I think it's going to be causing a lot of drama on the weekend's shows if he does captain Mupai. I will personally believe it when I see it. I'm not going to just take his word for it because I think he's got to sleep before that deadline. And if he wakes up tomorrow thinking, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" It can always change. But no, I just want to say we are 106 subs away now. 106 subs away from 3,000. The 3,000 mark.
Come on.
Quality.
If you want to hit that subscribe button, wink, wink. There you go. It'll help us get to our 3,000 mark for tomorrow night's show, for our anniversary show. That'd be great. That'd be amazing. But any other things you want to talk about? You got Trent Alexander-Arnold. You double up with Liverpool. You've decided that you don't need Mane or Salah. Are you kind of happy with the fact that you haven't invested there?
Well, I was actually thinking, this isn't definite, but this is a maybe for next week. I was thinking of doing Van Dijk and De Bruyne out next week for either Mane or Salah, and then Chilwell or Pereira. That's for next week, though.
Well, yes. Well, I think you've also got to consider the blank game week that's coming up as well.
Yeah, but that ain't for another six or seven games.
Yeah. But again, it's transfers that you either think about, or it's also your bench as well. You need to make sure that you've got a strong bench. Talking about bench, you've still got Cantwell and Kelly.
Yeah, they're just sitting there.
They're just sitting there, aren't they? But no, I mean, they're not going to be seeing the light of day, not with the team that you've got anyway, so it makes no point even mentioning it. But no, I think Yarmolenko's a great pick. Maddison's a very good pick. And your captaincy spot on. I think that going with Man City, Sterling's going to be up there. Excellent. Cheers, Charlie.
Yeah, cheers, Jace and Steve-O.
Appreciate you be with us tomorrow night for the anniversary.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be 2 days before my birthday, so it's a good little.
Brilliant!
Present.
There you go. And don't forget, on Saturday, apparently I'll go eat donut every time someone scores. Can we get an X in chat if you think that I should eat a donut every time someone scores on Saturday? Right, there we go. Don't all speak at once. You've got 4 seconds to vote. 3, 2, 1. No one put an X in chat. Ideal. Right, thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Yeah, cheers, lads.
Cheers, Sam. There we go.
Elite FPL's just said X.
Yeah, your vote only counts for one. One anyway. Norbet's going to be one of the second to last caller on the show. How you doing, Norbets?
I'm fine, thank you.
You all set for Gameweek 11?
I am.
You're confident with
There's some
Triple
defensive
City
things I'm still wondering about, but other than that, I'm fine.
You're confident in the Sterling captaincy along with David De Bruyne and Mahrez?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in that. It worked out last week, so hopefully it will work out again.
Have you made any transfers this particular game?
Yeah, I have taken 2 transfers. Not taking any hits, but taking 2 transfers.
Who did you do?
I took in Vardy and I took in Lundstrom.
And who did you take out?
I took out Haller and I took out Pereira.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
one less asset out for another.
I like your Mahrez differential pick. How confident you are with him playing a large portion of the game at the weekend at home, Southampton?
I think he will play. Both him and Bernardo played now midweek, and Bernardo played the last match, so I think maybe Mahrez will play now against Southampton and be ready for the Liverpool match in game week 12. I think Pep is going to play strongest 11 against Liverpool, so he needs to get Mahrez into the Premier League again.
Well, I think that if you've got him, you've got to obviously pray. Like a lot of people that own Man City assets, like Bernardo Silva and Mahrez, this game week, I think with Pep, no one's safe. I certainly am going to be. I'll be there come the team sheets, hoping that I don't have to go through what I went through last week with Aguero. And I'll tell you now, I don't think I can I don't think I could see another 14-minute cameo against a poor Southampton team. I think that I would literally cry on air. Yeah, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. A grown man crying over FPL on air. There we go. At a point, I probably would have eaten so many donuts, I'd be throwing them back up onto the keyboard. But yeah, anyway, it's your team's good. Your team's good. You've got Alexander-Arnold in. The question mark over Diop. I'm not sure I'd play Diop over Lundstrom. I think I'd play Lundstrom over Diop, personally.
Yeah, it could be that I will make that switch, actually.
I would.
But, yeah, I just brought him in, so it would be natural to play him.
You're hoping for a lot of saves from Pickford, then?
No. But I needed to take out Pereira to get the money to get Vardy in. And I think I just need to jump on that bandwagon. I think Vardy will have a very nice fixtures until December the 14th. So better to get him now than later. And it was always part of the plan to get him in, but I had to take Wilson in first, and then and then I would try to upgrade him to Vardy once Wilson's fixtures were getting worse.
No, that's fair enough.
Now I've taken Haller out instead.
Yeah, I think you had to get rid of Haller. It was time. It was long past due. I said, Zinska in chat, no, don't take Aguero out for Sterling in the -4. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, I think you're set with your team. And I wish you all the best of luck for the game week. And hopefully you can join us tomorrow night for the celebration stream.
Yeah, I will try to do so.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Norbits. Thank you.
Good luck to you too as well.
No, thank you. Thank you. I'm hoping that Vardy doesn't blank and he pays me back. Thank you. Thank you, Norbits.
Okay, bye.
Right, final caller is Notorious Nerd, long-time viewer of the show.
Well, perfect guest.
One
Notorious,
of the longest.
You all right?
Here we go.
Brilliant. We've had a question from FPL Tips and the Don, and they're asking thoughts on Jimenez. I'm going to ask you. You've got him in your team.
This is Notorious Nerd, guys. This is Notorious Nerd. Ready?
Keep Jimenez. His fixtures are still good, and if you're patient with him, he's going to return soon. I think it's quite high for the expected assists as well. So in the last game, I think Doherty missed some chances, and Jimenez could have got some assists. So I think keep the patience with him.
Are you confident? Are you confident for him ahead of Arsenal?
Yeah, definitely confident. Looking at the teams, the defense of Arsenal.
So you've obviously got Sterling captaincy. You're happy with that ahead of the history's favoured De Bruyne?
Yeah, but Sterling has looked quite sharp, and De Bruyne, there's a bit of a concern that he's playing a bit deeper since he's come from the injury. So we have to look at that and definitely go with the player with the higher ceiling, the point ceiling. So that is Sterling for this game. So yeah, plus he's got rest.
You're a player with Mopay. I've brought him in. Show me the Mane, top of that Cash Mini League, says that he's going to be captaining Mopay. Are you confident with his fixture up against Norwich?
Yeah, he's my 1 week punt for this game week. If I get rid of him for Vardy for the next game week, so I'm pretty confident.
Have you got the cash to do that? Exactly.
No, like I had 2 free transfers this week, so I used 1 transfer to get rid of Wilson. So next week I'll have 2 free transfers again to bring in Vardy somehow. Maybe get rid of Sterling ahead of stuff fixture.
Say that again. You're thinking of getting rid of Sterling?
I wouldn't get rid of Sterling, mate.
Next week, when he's got the Liverpool game, I would get rid of Sterling and bring in someone with a better fixture, or maybe downgrade to David Silva to make funds for the Vardy pick ahead of his Arsenal at home and captain him, most probably.
Do you think Sterling isn't going to do well against Liverpool then? You think that Liverpool...
It's not that he might not do well, just the 12 million, I would want a player who I can captain every week. And looking at his fixtures, I don't think he's going to be a popular captain pick. So I've got to look at Vardy in that sense, looking at his fixtures.
Okay, yeah. Okay, That's fine. So who would your Sterling replacement be? Sorry.
I haven't thought much at the moment. It could be Son, one of the picks, or it could be Marshall. And if I want to go really left field, I would also consider Richarlison. So those are at the moment what I'm thinking.
Now, you're in the same kind of dilemma as me. You're playing Lundstrom ahead of Soyuncu. How can you've gone with that swap rather than the other way around?
Just gone with the player playing in the home game. Nothing much to say. It's just the home fixture. The moral concern was whether to play Tomori or Soyuncu, but I think Watford, attacking wise, are not looking so great. So I fancied like Chelsea should keep a clean sheet at least in this game. So in this fixture.
Wow. And remind the audience, you're doing really well this season in the overall rankings. Do you want to tell the audience where you are?
Topsy-turvy season. I'm down to the 200k mark. The last
unlucky.
game week. So, but I'm hopeful I'll get a green arrow this week. So back again at the top.
What did you predict for the Man City versus Southampton game?
Predicted around a 6-1 scoreline, I think, like last season.
I'm hoping so.
Well, that'd be nice. That'd be nice, Aguero to get 5 goals. That'd be perfect. You'll pay me back all those points I lost over the last 3 weeks. Thank you, Notorious Nerd. We can't have you. We can't. Sorry, but we're out of time. Is basically where we're at now. It's coming up 20 minutes past. Thank you ever so much tonight. Hopefully you'll join us tomorrow night. We'll be on the anniversary stream for tomorrow, celebrating a year of live streams on YouTube. It's been a pleasure. Speak soon.
Sure, thanks. Catch everyone there soon.
Cheers, buddy. Cheers. Guys, thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. We've gone through the predictions, listened to Steve-O's history. Again, if you've enjoyed the stream, please hit that subscribe button. Help us on our journey to 3,000 subscribers. Can we do it for this time tomorrow? I should say. Will we be downing shots of vodka, Steve-O?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I can tell you now that it won't be downing shots. Maybe a shot here or there, but
maybe a bottle.
Yeah, just down a bottle. I will be eating cake though. That's a guaranteed. Although I won't be eating much of it because those muffins killed me. But we'll be all night discussing.
I'm regretting saying about donuts because it could be a bit of a goal fest on Saturday afternoon.
I doubt it. How many donuts are you buying? 24, like 36 quid.
That can't be healthy, right? Like I'll have to go for a run around the block like 3 times after eating those donuts, trying my best to get that out of my system. But yeah, down the gym for an hour on the treadmill. Like the stream, everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Jane.
Is that Teddy who I used to work with? Good afternoon or good morning, Teddy. 2 a.m. in Kenya.
He's in Kenya, wow. Almost 2 a.m. Well, thank you ever so much for tuning in all the way from Kenya. Thank you ever to everyone that's hit the membership button tonight and subscribed and liked the show. It's a pleasure. And tomorrow night, we look forward to having you guys come on the show and just chat. Not about FPL, just about the community.
Elite FPL.
About Elite FPL, absolutely. So if you're here for tips, tricks, cheats, advice, don't come tomorrow night because we're just going to be doing a bit of a party. We're gonna have
I wonder if it would be like the old days where we'll stream in front of like about 20 people. That'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd be such. We can get them all on Discord.
We can just read the chat. We don't have to worry about the chat moving too quickly. But it's great. It's been a great night. Thank you guys. Join us tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. And Steve-O, finally, because I took over the admin, elitefpl.com, at elitefpl on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on there. And new outro, guys. New outro. Let me know what you think. See you. Say bye, Steve-O.
Say bye, Steve-O. Bye. It's like a kids' TV show.
I need to get a sock puppet. See you.